in this district. You have literal streets where there are houses that are in certain districts, and then houses that are not, that are on the same damn street. You know, and
that's how serious it is. They've actually been done twice for it already in recent years, where it's happened on a local level, because it's individual states that will do this. It isn't like Trump himself who will do this, but it's his people who try and get that policy to happen. And it's very
well,
tough.
they think that right now, because of the changing demographic of the American voter, they think that it's going to be more and more difficult for Republicans to win office. So what they're doing now is they're trying to move the goalposts, you know, to make it more difficult.
Bear with me, guys. Yeah.
You know,
I was telling them, Butch, about voter suppression.
Oh, absolutely.
So that was the other side of it that I thought was really key as well, because that is literally taking away your vote. They will literally use an excuse to take away your vote and say that.
Oh yeah, that like creating a voter ID card. You know, like if you don't have a voter ID, then they can take away your right to vote, because you can't prove that you are in fact who you say you are if you don't have a voter ID. But what it is all you need is your ID card, and you can register to vote anywhere, and you don't have to pre-register for any election. But what they're trying to do now is they're trying to make it more difficult for people to vote. And another thing that they do is, like, they put very few polling stations in economically depressed areas.
Far away as possible.
Yeah, like so if you're a minority, then you have to stand in line, because there's only like 1 or 2 polling stations on your side of town. You have to stand in line for several hours, miss work, you know, and if you're in an economically depressed area, you can't afford to miss work all day just to go vote.
That's terrible. That is.
Yeah, it's voter suppression.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, like at the last congressional election, they had you had poll watchers, right? These are people that go and volunteer and stand at the polling stations, and these people are standing there outside of polling stations, dressed in military type gear, with their AK-47s and their rifles, you know, trying to intimidate voters. And these are private citizens who have no government authority, but they are watching the polls to make sure that everybody who's voting is supposed to be there, and they're standing there and with their guns, and people are a lot of people, they see these white folks with these masks and these AK-47s standing outside a polling station, and they say, well, I'm not gonna
it's like a clan rally, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'd be like, I'd walk straight past them, but I ain't voting there, man. Seeing a bit.
A lot of their tricks that they're trying to play, this is what they're trying to do. They're doing all of these things, and it's one on top of the other. They worked out that on their own, they're not enough to stop a Democrat winning. But when you put it together, they only really need maybe 40% of people to actually really be interested in what they're saying. And that's why they pay lip service. I mean, Holy Link was saying on one of the previous shows about, you know, Trump sending money to him, he sent me money, he sent me money. No, he was the first president ever who insisted on his name going out on a check that was sent from the Federal Reserve, or well, not Federal Reserve, but from
the stimulus package.
Stimulus package.
He wants his name on the check. Yeah,
so
like it's his money. Like it's his money.
He's
yeah.
And this is
he's a true narcissist.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, in every sense of the word. But I mean, like, I think we could go on about this one forever. But I think what we have to be really mindful of is, look, that a lot of things, I reckon, and this is not to diss any of you guys. I'll take a real keen interest in this, just because it's just become something I've into and really started to enjoy doing. But for the majority of people out there, they've not got the time to consume like I have while I'm at work all day and listen to hour after video and watch things and listen to things all the time and read things. So the majority of people, especially even over here, won't know what's happening over in the States, what's happening with Trump and what's happening with his government and all these. I mean, people know there's dirty politics, but to go on to this level, and that where, like I say, someone is literally breaking the Constitution, breaking the law every single day, and we don't know
in
about
plain
it.
sight,
It
and
shows
that's why.
how dangerous the world. Yeah.
Well,
And because we don't know, which we don't know.
yeah. Well, the thing of it is Donald Trump right now is desperate to win the next election because he's committed so many crimes. He's committed so many crimes that he thinks that he wants to run out the statute of limitations on a bunch of the crimes that he's committed.
Okay.
But he's such an idiot, man. See, he cannot be prosecuted as long as he's the president.
No.
Well, that's not the law. That's just Department of Justice policy. That's not written in the Constitution anywhere. That's just Department of Justice policy. It's not a law. However, a statute of limitation prevents him from being arrested or being charged with a crime as long as the statute of limitation on each crime, on the crime that he commits. Like if you don't charge him for these non-capital crimes, you have 5 years to charge him. Okay, and if you don't charge him within that 5 year period, then the statute of limitation runs out on that crime. But the idiot is committing new crimes every day. So every day the clock starts ticking again. You know what I mean? But the thing of it is what he's trying to do is he's trying to set it up to where eventually somebody's going to come into office. He wants to set it up to where even if he even if he ends up becoming getting charged with a crime, right, that the next president that comes in will pardon him.
With his buddy. It's probably going to be his buddy, his son probably.
Yeah, not his son.
Let's not wish that upon the world, man.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I think what they think
Please.
is they're hoping that Mike Pence will be the next president after after Trump. I don't think
He's
Joe
the vice
Biden,
president at the moment.
Yeah, he's the vice president right now, and he's every bit of a redneck and a Bible thumping maniac that you could ever.
But he's a real one. He actually knows the scripture. Trump doesn't.
And yeah, the difference between Mike Pence is crazy. Like Mike Pence actually believes that homosexuality can be prayed out of a person.
Oh God.
Oh no.
Okay, he actually believes that, and he thinks that what he can do is, you know, he's anti-abortion, he's anti-gay, he's anti everything that's not, you know, hallelujah, hallelujah, holy Jesus. You know, if it's not that, he doesn't want to have anything to do with it. Okay, and the difference between Mike Pence and Donald Trump is Mike Pence is a wolf in sheep's clothing, and he's smart. You know what I mean? He's evil, but he's smart. Donald Trump is an idiot. Okay, Donald Trump is an idiot, and he doesn't have enough sense. He thinks he's in a reality show. He thinks, and that's why he's always talking about the ratings of the news people. The ratings, you know, I get more people at my rallies. You know, blah blah blah. That kind of superficial shit is important to him. Okay, but he has no substance. But Mike Pence is much more dangerous than Donald Trump is because he's evil and smart. You see,
but definitely both.
Yeah.
Hey, Butch. Okay.
But hey, let's move on because I don't think.
Well, I just want to have a
guys-
quick question because I posted a video in our group the other day. This is actually to Butch. Butch, explain to me what a typical Trump supporter is and why you think that Trump won't make it when his supporters are how you're going to describe them now.
Well, the thing of it is the typical Trump supporter. There are several. There are several. I mean, I know some black people that support Trump because there's some black Bible thumping Christians out there who think that abortion is wrong. They think that homosexuality is an abomination against God, but if you read those scriptures where it talks about abominations, well, it says pork is an abomination. It says shellfish is an abomination. It's not just homosexuality is an abomination, but a lot of people that call themselves Christians, they read the Bible with scissors and tape, and those people support Donald Trump. And then you have people that they just want to do away with the system. Anarchists. They want to do away with the system. You have people that are sovereigns. Those are people who don't recognize the federal government's authority over them. It's like. Give me an example.
Like the Moors community would be a different angle, but they would say they are sovereign because they say that they don't have to, because of the treaty of 1783, they don't have to actually follow American law.
They don't recognize the authority
doesn't
of the
apply to them because they are
exactly.
Sovereign.
Yeah, and you have they call themselves sovereign citizens. In other words, they have the absolute right to govern themselves. That's why you have and Donald Trump, like he mentioned it yesterday, talking about when he said he's going to send in the military to protect people's property and lives and their Second Amendment rights. Okay, now the Second Amendment has got nothing to do with what's going on because the protesters are mostly peaceful. But what he wants to do is
observing their First Amendment rights as well.
Yeah, exactly. But what he's not talking about the First Amendment. He's talking about the Second Amendment. That's people's right to bear arms. What he wants is his supporters to go out there with guns, and he's trying to escalate the situation to where citizens are shooting at each other in the streets. That's what he wants.
And he wants that because November comes and he gets voted out. If he gets voted out, which I think.
Well, he already said that he thinks there's going to be a civil war if he doesn't win the election.
Yeah, he won't leave anyway.
So he's already
He'll be the first president I reckon he'll be the first president ever who will actually say like if he was meant to leave office, to say I'm not going. Everybody who supports me get to the White House. Literally,
that's protest.
Do you believe
he's the first president in the history of the United States that right now is talking about putting American regular military troops on the streets to put down civil unrest. That's against the law.
And show dominance.
That's against the law in America for the military to do any kind of military action against American citizens. That's against the law. But he's saying he's going to do it, because he doesn't give a shit about the law. What is important to Donald Trump is that he does what he wants, period.
No one stops him. No one thinks, let's just stop this guy. Why does no one... I
don't know, but I mean, more provocative than that. So just to add to Butch's thing, then I'll let you get straight in, Wayne. Sorry. He said on literally when these riots started the other day, I think after the first night, and it got really bad. He said when the looting starts, the shooting starts.
Yeah.
Or when they start looting, we start shooting. Or I think.
Exactly.
And that is an actual quote that was taken from I don't know if it was a politician, but some Confederate leader. I think it was the governor of either Georgia
or Florida when they had some kind of civil unrest down there, and or it might have even been a mayor of some major city in the South, and the guy said when the looting starts, the shooting starts, but that was back in the '60s during the race riots of 1968. And he said when the looting starts, the shooting starts. And
very
of
deliberate
course,
language
Donald
to bring
Trump,
that up again.
yeah,
Very
of
deliberate
course.
language. That was very,
Exactly.
very.
That's what
Those
I
are
find.
those that's what they call
The
blowing
language.
his dog whistle. You know,
Mm.
you
What was that,
know.
Erica?
Language, though, it's like he wants to seep into the consciousness of all the people that could be dangerous, like saying you don't want to look like jerks. What's that going to do to someone that does have toxic masculinity? Well, no, we can't be seen to be like jerks. It's going to provoke them even further and raise tensions even higher. And that's what I can't say about this guy.
But that's
And the fact of labeling them
that's exactly what he wants to do.
well, yeah, exactly. But that's what people
he
aren't
wants to
seeing.
create chaos. He said when he and Steve Bannon made that when they came out after he won the election, he actually came out and said they want to dismantle the system as it is. They want chaos. Chaos is good as far as they're concerned. You know, they want to destroy the system. And
I want to go in. Well, I got a topic coming up. I was gonna ask because Butch, I remember you remember probably was you around when the Black Panther movement was going on?
Sure. Man, I've been around since the 50s, dude.
Yeah, then you know. So my question was, is it time to think about solely black police forces? And what I mean by that is like just having instead of having these white guys who've been running everything, would it be time to say, okay, let's educate some black people to be police? Because maybe they'll do it properly, you know. Maybe we won't go around killing people. I mean, it'll be the odd case, I guess.
Are you on about black police policing their own communities, or are you talking about a separate
I'm
black
thinking,
police force?
well, the thing is, we could mess with the idea that there was black police for black people and white police for white people, you know what I mean? I think in England they tried that a little bit.
That starts straight down the line of apartheidhood again, you know.
Yeah, but the thing is,
exactly. I think that's separate but equal is bullshit. You know.
The thing is, though, obviously you see that it's not working. When, like, I remember in England, they started.
Wayne, listen, man. It doesn't matter what country you're in, black police will be corrupt. You go to Jamaica, many a black policeman over there has been involved in whatever. You go to Africa, the same. You go to India, the same. You go to China, the same. Mate.
So it doesn't matter.
No. It wouldn't matter at the end of the day, right?
What you need to do is enforce the laws. They have laws on the books that if they are enforced, they will work. But what you have is policemen that protect policemen before. And your job is to protect the citizens, but they protect each other.
Something to add to that I think is really crucial to this. This is what I think a lot of people forget when the policeman dons his uniform in the morning and goes to work. I know they look the same when they're there in their cars. They step out of a uniform car, it looks the same. It's the same make and model as the same, another police car and vice versa. So you're used to seeing this very uniform look, and police become literally the badge. What you see is the uniform, and we have our own expectations of that uniform. But when that policeman leaves his house in the morning, what he's been indoctrinated with growing up, his environment, what he's seen now. So these kids now growing up in this Trump era, watching the leader of the free world be openly racist, openly corrupt, seeing this on all these levels. But it could be as simple as seeing it back home with your mother and your father who are maybe racist because their mother and father was racist and they've never been around black people or whatever it is. Those people come out and they work in different communities, and they work in communities of color, places where they might be a little small town homeboy, or a girl or whatever, never left the village, and this becomes, they go out and you multiply that around the country, and that probably does equate to the amount of people who are committing these heinous crimes. I'm not saying that police brutality isn't a thing that's occurring often. It obviously is, but what I'm saying is those people who commit those crimes, and what they found out about the guy who was kneeling on George Floyd's name, George Floyd, he had these kind of beliefs, and he had you know, some racist tendencies, and had been, I think he'd been in trouble. Was it 13 or 17 previous times, or had 13 previous complaints against him?
Something like that.
You know, this guy had form.
18.
This guy had form. 18. So this guy had
as a matter of
already.
fact, you know, George Floyd and this cop, Derek Chauvin,
Yeah.
they worked together.
Was that true? I
They
saw
worked
that, but I
together at a club. They were security. They worked on the same security team at a club when they knew each other.
So they probably had some personal issue. Well, he probably had
Well,
some
you know,
personal issue, but he arrived with a badge that day.
Yeah. You know, well, the lady said, the lady that owned the club where they both worked, they said that whenever they had ethnic nights, like they would have a hip hop night, or where the club was full of minorities, that Derek Chauvin got really nervous and agitated, and he was more aggressive on those nights than he was on the regular nights when it was
country
just
night.
Yeah, or whatever.
So, I want to ask a really provocative question, and I don't know. I wonder what you'd all say really about it, because you know we talk about the change in the action that people are taking now against. You know, the way we're standing up to the police. We've already discussed the difference of how white people can turn up with AR-15s and bulletproof vests and shouting police faces on Capitol Hill, but black people can just about put their hands up without getting shot in a car. So we know that disparity already exists. For now, there's people. If we look at the situation now with George Floyd, we look at the passers-by, the onlookers who were there, who at some point must have realized this situation had escalated to the point, well, they was calling out, he's not breathing, he's not moving. Like, what point then? Do you say, sorry, can I just make this a point? Because I want, it's a really important question I wanted to ask you. Is there a point there where literally a person, a passerby, maybe someone who's got a concealed gun permit, should be allowed then to actually point the gun at the police saying, you are murdering somebody in front of citizens, I'm making a citizen's arrest because you are trying to murder somebody in front of my eyes, who is, everybody knew that George Floyd wasn't a threat at that point. He was handcuffed with his arms behind his back, with his neck basically on the pavement and that, being pressured down. You know, his one part of his head's on the pavement, his neck's off the pavement with all that pressure on him. He's being murdered in front of him. That is murder. Like, is there a point where citizens should be able to say, hang on, no, we're actually going to turn our weapons on you and get somebody above now to come and de-escalate this situation? You know, is there something that citizens can do, or do we just literally have to watch somebody being murdered in front of our face and then talk about it, you know, afterwards?
In my opinion, that would have to be a white person, because otherwise, if it was safe, it was all of us guys, we'd all get shot.
We'd all get shot.
Well, white or black, you point a gun at a cop when there's 3 other cops there, you're outgunned.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, I mean, as the community, though, I mean, not as a one person taking a rebel stand against it. I mean, like, literally, like, if this has got enough people to the point, we're saying, like, no, we're not willing to discharge these weapons, but we want command down here now, because we're watching a man being murdered in front of our faces. Like, is there a point where we have to say, like, this is looking like, you know, something needs to be done? Like, what would you do if you was a passerby? Because I think straight away, if that would have been me and I was watching somebody get murdered, I probably would be willing to go to prison to stop that man from dying.
Well, I almost went to jail one night when I was in Houston, because there was one of my neighbors was he was driving drunk, okay, but he made it to his house, parked his car, you know, and ran into the house. Okay. The cops came, drug him out of the house, you know, and they were towing his car away. I said, wait a minute, what are you doing? You can arrest him if you suspect you saw him driving the car. You can prove that he was driving the car, but you cannot tow his car from his house, because he's no longer driving the car. There's no reason for you to impound his vehicle, you know, because the car is parked. And they told me that I was interfering with a police operation, and I'm not supposed to be within 100 feet of a crime scene. I said, but this is not the crime scene. The crime scene was out there where he was driving, but he's not driving anymore. The crime scene, if this is a crime scene, is because you are illegally trying to tow that man's car off of his property. If they had stopped him before he got home, and he's out there on a public street, they could tow his car away, but they can't tow his car away from his property. And their issue, they threatened to throw me in jail for interfering with a policeman in the while he's doing his
duty.
His duty, right? Now, anyone who approaches a crime scene, the cops, they set up a perimeter, man. They set up a perimeter to protect themselves. And if you come within that perimeter, then you are taking your own life into your hands.
Yeah.
Especially in this day and age, when the citizens actually are they carry more lethal weapons than the cops do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that guy's name? He was murdered a few weeks ago. They killed him. They said they were fearing for their lives. That's the catch-all phrase now. A cop can say, I feared for my life because this guy was reaching for his cell phone.
Yeah.
And
there's that guy who they asked if he had a gun in the car, and he explained to them that he did have a weapon. They asked him where it was. They told him not to move. He didn't move. They told him to move, and then when he did move, they shot and killed him in front of his wife.
He was sitting next to his wife and they shot him. The thing of it is, what about the 11-year-old boy that was playing with a water pistol in the park? And the cops drove up and shot him within 12 seconds of arriving.
Didn't even find out his age. Like, how old are you? Nothing, just shot him.
They drove up and within what was it? I said 12 seconds of arriving. They shot that kid. He was 11 years old.
Now, can you imagine any white person in any situation ever being shot within 12 seconds?
No. Look at that guy. He got a hero parade from shooting up the church. I can't remember what state it was. But that guy was like he was.
You're talking about in Charleston, South Carolina, where what was his name?
I don't remember the idiot's name, but I remember his face and how it looked like he had a nice stroll.
Dylan something. He was this. They took the kid to Burger King. He just murdered 9 people in a church.
Oh yeah. I remember that story.
They took him to Burger King and bought him burger and fries and
he was like, I'm hungry.
And they dressed him up in a bulletproof vest and everything, and then they treated him. I tell you what, if the dynamic had been reversed, like a black kid go into a white church and kill 9 white people, do you think he would have gone to Burger King, or would he have gone to the morgue?
I think it would go further than that,
DOA,
man. I think if you actually take that as a scenario and actually think about it for a second, that example would actually be echoed and reverberated in every corner of every public, police, everybody would deal with the black community different after that, because they would vilify every black person after that. Every person would be that picture, because that picture would be painted everywhere. And this is the thing, like they talk about, I read a book years ago by John Grisham called The Street Lawyer, and it was actually a really, really deep book, just a fiction book about a lawyer who took on cases.
I like John Grisham.
It was about this guy who took on cases pro bono, and it was basically him discovering that black people were really disproportionately treated, and everyone was just treated so badly. I'm trying to think where I was going with the point now, but I think he just exposed the lives of how black people were treated by police, and basically they were talking. This is what I was getting to. There was a missing case of a young white kid who gone missing in a black community, And it reminded me, I can't remember the girl's name, but it actually did happen. I think in the late 90s, early 2000s, where there was this big hoo-ha about this poor white girl who had gone missing, and everybody was looking for her. Black community, white community, everybody was looking for her, and the community did really come together. But the thing that was key about that is it was national headlines. It was everywhere. She's on the back of milk cartons. She's everywhere, all over the news, consistently, which is what we have in the UK when we think of Madeleine McCann, because her name was echoed all around the world. How many black children go missing each year? How many black people go missing in white neighborhoods each year?
That's exactly what I was about to say, because there was this woman. She had a 12-year-old daughter, black lady. Her 12-year-old daughter was missing, and she went to the police to report it. They said, well, how do you know she didn't just run away? Right? But it turns out that there was this little white girl who came up missing, and then the press got involved and everything, and it turns out there was a serial killer who was killing little girls, and he killed three minority little girls. And when those girls were missing, the cops weren't interested. There was no press involved. But as soon as it was a little white girl, then, oh my God, the whole community was up in arms.
That was his downfall. That was his downfall. You